Hey there, my name is Kate Cornell. I'm going to be your host for this episode of the Guide Apps show, The Business of Talent. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Carmen Zavala. She is a medical student at UT looking to get into the world of neurology. She's been on an incredible journey, and I can't wait to tell you about that. So tell me a little bit about your journey.
I always kind of knew that I wanted to go into medicine. I grew up with a mom, she was chronically ill, and suffered very much from chronic pain. Waking up, I'd help her put on her shoes and those kinds of things from a very young age. And so that's kind of where my interest in medicine started. And like I said, my mom struggled with chronic pain her whole entire life. And all they could do, at a certain point was to just treat the pain. The only thing that they could do, was give prescription opioids like they do to so many people. And unfortunately, she fell to opioid addiction and ultimately lost her life to it in 2017. So at that moment, I realized, there was a much bigger issue going on at that time. I think it was reported that more people had died from the opioid overdose epidemic than they did in the Korean War, I believe. Yeah. So big impact was happening. And so again, I felt very, very passionate about it. And I started doing research. And that's kind of where my love for science started. I started studying, opioid addiction and chronic pain mechanisms, and that ultimately led me to get my MD PhD.
Amazing. So talk about how your mom's passing, you use it as a motivator, not a devastator. That's Kate Cornell trademark, by the way.
Yeah. I will say the first year was very hard after she passed to, have any motivation, those kinds of things. I was 19 years old when it happened, and to kind of dig myself out of that hole was very hard. And I had to talk with myself, my grades were kind of falling in school. I was a sophomore in college at the time, and I was like, at this point, either I can let this make me or break me. My future's on the line, and what am I going to do with it? And I knew that my mom, she wanted me to become a doctor, and, all of these people believed in me and supported me. And I, just kind of took that turn and said, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this for people like my mom. I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to do this for my family, and hopefully help other families in the U.S. as well.
I love that. So in your classes and your clinicals and stuff, do you often find you're one of only a few women out of everybody?
I will say, so my school is very good about gender equality. I think it's over 50% of our class is actually female. Yeah, I think it's 52 or 53%.
I love that.
Yeah.
So but I think maybe overall in the field that you want to get into, it might be not just beyond Texas, maybe a little bit more male dominated, would you say?
1000%. Yeah. So I'm interested in neurosurgery. That's what I'd like to become at the end of all of this, is a neurosurgeon. And very few women go into that specialty, especially Hispanic women. So it's an even smaller amount of women.
I was definitely going to mention that. So any message that you have to young women and girls who are Latina like you, interested in the same path that you have taken?
Yeah, so I think a lot of us, so my dad was an immigrant, right? And so a lot of us have parents that have never navigated the education system in the U.S. They don't know how to fill out a FAFSA. They don't know, anything about scholarships or college for that matter. I was a first generation student. Neither of my parents even graduated high school. So navigating that by myself was very difficult. And I think the biggest message I have for those that feel alone in it is to reach out to your guidance counselors, reach out to the resources available to you, reach out to the colleges. There are resources, there are scholarships, especially for first generation students. And just because your parents haven't done it doesn't mean that you can't. So definitely just do your research.
Anything about don't let the men stand in the way, don't let them
get me started. Yes. I will say, especially, when I tell people the field that I want to go into, neurosurgery, it's a 7-year residency. There's not very many women. The first thing I always get asked is, well, what about kids? First of all, they just assume that I want to have children, but it's not a question that ever gets asked to my male colleagues when they say they want to do surgery. At that point, it's your business, it's your life. Just keep going, let's prove I'm wrong.
Awesome. Where do you see yourself at the end of your residency?
Yeah. So the whole goal, right? So I'm in this combined MD PhD program. It's an 8-year combined program. I'll graduate as a physician scientist. And so that looks a little bit different than the regular MD physician pathway. So for me, I would love to work at an academic institution practicing neurosurgery, but also having my own research lab. So that's the whole reason I wanted to get my PhD, was so that I can do this translational science. So I can, if there's a phenomenon going on in a clinic, I can go into my research lab and study it in mouse models, cell models, and those kinds of things to really get like a grassroots approach to problem solving.
Grassroots, that's a cool way of putting it. Okay, so you touched on this a little bit in my last question. What is like the concrete difference between being good old-fashioned classic neuro and what you do or what you plan to do?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is the time split. So in terms of being a neurosurgeon, they're doing surgery 5 days a week, or a clinic 1 day out of those weeks, and they're not usually focused on research. So for me, my week would be like 2 or 3 days in the operating room, 2 days in my research lab, that kind of stuff. So I have protected time from the university I work with to have that time to, research. So.
Well, thank you for sticking with us. I'm so glad that you're still here. Hey, do me a little favor. Go to my.guideapp.co, and there you can create an account that is for exclusive content that only members get. We're talking additional interviews and some bloopers that will definitely make you laugh. What have you found to be your biggest challenges so far?
I think the biggest challenge that I had has been imposter syndrome in medical school. Again, I am first generation student. My parents didn't even go to college. So being in medical school with all of these students whose parents are doctors and their parents are wealthy, and they went to these private schools, they went to Ivy League schools, and I went to an incredible state school, but it's not the same. But I think having that pride and they had all these different resources and all of this support financially, emotionally, and those kinds of things, but we're still sitting at the same table, I think is very important to remind myself. I got here with my own will. So yeah, just kind of telling myself, you should be proud of where you're sitting.
Yeah, you should, absolutely. What do you see in the rest of your time? Are there any different obstacles that you see coming along other than what you've dealt with so far?
Honestly, yes. I think something that's important to touch upon, I know we talked about it earlier a little bit, was having children as a woman. You have to think, we do have to carry a pregnancy, and then we have to have maternity leave and those kinds of things. It's actually unfortunate in residency we don't get maternity leave at all. So that is obviously a clear hindrance to women in medicine. You're supposed to come back and just, resume back to normal. I think that's going to be a big challenge, because I do believe women can be mothers and doctors at the same time. So yeah, I think that's going to be a big issue, but I'll get through it nonetheless. A lot of women do.
So I mean this in like a very literal geographical sense at this point. Do you know where you want to be, like physically, when you finish up?
I absolutely love Houston. I'm not from here, so moving here was a very big culture shock. I absolutely love how big the Hispanic population is. I love the big city feel, but also it's very yeehaw, cowgirl boots. It's a mix of a lot of things. So I would love to stay in Houston, but I could also see myself going to like Southern California or maybe Southern Florida. We'll see where it takes me.
So like maybe taking a little break for your first residency rotation and then finding your way back.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Houston, it's like one of the biggest medical hubs in the world, like in so many ways. Why are you grateful to be in, is that part of why you're grateful to be here?
1000%. It actually is the biggest medical center in the entire world. It is such an honor to be able to learn and work with these people. Like some of the greatest physicians ever are here at my school. So that was another big draw coming from Indiana. I got into multiple schools all over the country, but I came to Texas, Houston, because of all of the opportunities here. We see cases that people, I actually am writing a paper on a tumor. There's only been 7 documented in the whole entire history of, neurosurgery. So it's I would never get those opportunities anywhere else. Very grateful to be here.
So I've heard that some patients fly in from Amsterdam. Have you had any patients haul from very far corners of the earth just to be in Houston?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have people from Europe come here all the time, specifically for like our orthopedic doctors, our neurosurgeons. Yeah, we have a very great institution. It's world renowned.
Amazing.
Yeah, especially with MD Anderson being on the campus. I think that's probably the biggest hub. They're treating cancers that can't be treated anywhere else. I mean, it's incredible what they do over there.
What is like overall, maybe beyond class, like your favorite part about UT?
Oh, I would say it's definitely the type of people that they accept. Like I said, I got into like multiple schools, and UT just had this like energy. It was very like Southern welcoming. It was very, I feel like everyone knows each other. Even though we're in the fourth biggest city in the country, it feels like we're all like family.
What do you think both your mom from a heavenly and the rest of your family from an earthly perspective think about your career? Are they supportive?
Yeah, absolutely. Funny enough, today's actually my mom's birthday, so shout out to her. Yeah, I don't think that any of my family, I don't think my mom ever thought that I would get to where I was going now in terms of like, the impact that I'm making because of her, but I would hope that, she would be proud of where I am today. And I know that the rest of my family is incredibly proud and supportive, so yeah.
Do you have siblings?
I do. Yeah, my brother is actually here in Houston. He flew in yesterday. He's waiting out there actually. But yeah, we are best friends.
How old is he?
He is 24.
Yeah, you've total big sister energy.
1000%. Yes. Yeah.
Talk about the influence you've had as an online personality and like how that's been effective for other people who follow you.
Yeah. So I started my like TikTok around COVID actually, and I was applying to medical school at the time, MD, PhD programs at the time, and no one really knows about those kinds of programs, so I thought it was like a fun little niche thing to talk about, and I just started having this like snowball effect of these followers, like, oh, I didn't know anybody going into this, or I've never seen like, I don't know any women that have gone into this, and those kinds of things, so people have really like used it as like a platform to reach out. I give people advice on medical school all the time. I've got incredible like opportunities, like Figs, the brand, which we call like the Gucci of scrubs. They like flew me out for this like huge campaign and like modeling, and it's been like an incredible opportunity. I've met like incredible doctors. It's become this amazing network of just like medical professionals and people that like really look up to me, which is really sweet. So yeah, I love the TikTok.
Dear members and faves, thank you again so much for watching this episode of The Business of Talent. Do me a favor, head over to my.guideapp.co, and that will help you get some exclusive content that can contend to exclusive prizes. Thanks again for watching. I'm Kate Cornell.